Welcome back to another episode of Spiritual Teachers Podcast. With me today is my dear brother and friend and homie, Ben Steezy. Ben is a hip-hop herbalist and the founder of Shilajit Gold. Shilajit, Ben, it's an honor to have you on. Welcome on, brother.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here, Peter. Thank you for having me. Excited to connect with you and your audience.
Yeah, thank you, man. Some of the topics we're going to cover, and it's going to be a lot more than that, but we'll start off with, we're going to talk about Shilajit and the story of Lajit Gold. We're going to talk about herbs and different plant medicines, conscious music. We may touch on Sedona, some Lajit Gold retreats around the world, and bioculture. So I'm stoked to talk about all that, brother. So can you would you be open to sharing about how it all started for you, how the journey began, and where did it all begin for you?
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving me the space to revisit some of the origin stories. With Lajit Gold, I never intended to have a Shilajit brand or to sell Shilajit. It's something that I became aware of when I was pretty deep in my own healing journey. I was looking for ways to heal my body from autoimmune issues and chronic pain related to severe club feet that I was born with and surgeries that I had had. On that path, I started to study traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, looking at some of the ancient medical systems, and a lot of the knowledge that I was finding was helping me a lot more than the traditional Western medicine route had. In fact, I was feeling pretty hopeless where my autoimmune issues were being misdiagnosed and then very poorly treated once we did figure out what they were. Mm-hmm. So the condition continued to proliferate and get worse. And it was, for me, psoriasis was the actual physical symptom of what was happening. And the way that it showed up was really interesting because it was the bottom of my feet. So if you're familiar with psoriasis, like the skin kind of grows over itself and becomes very painful. It cracks. There's a lot of like cracking and bleeding, and your skin is basically looking to repair a damaged part of the body that's not actually damaged. So it causes all of these issues. Mm-hmm. And when I originally went to a dermatologist, it was misdiagnosed as a fungal infection. So they wanted to treat it with topical steroids and all of these. That was a whole rabbit hole because I learned that there's this thing called topical steroid withdrawal syndrome. And that's something that a lot of people who are prescribed these topical steroids, they'll end up having some very, very severe reactions that is far worse than like psoriasis, or, I've seen some really gruesome stories and pictures and met people who have just lived in a lot of pain and had to deal with these scarring and bleeding and open wounds on their skin from the topical steroid withdrawal syndrome. So,
oh God.
Yeah. So, going down that rabbit hole and learning about that really inspired me to dig more into ancient healing modalities. A lot of these autoimmune issues were not documented or didn't exist prior to modern agriculture and like a lot of the changes that we made as humanity in the last 100 years.
Like glyphosate, things like
glyphosate, yeah, pesticides, herbicides, and a lot of the modern farming practices are not the sole responsibility, like not the sole thing that's causing these issues, but it's I believe, a really big contributing factor. So I started to learn about this on my own. I came across Shilajit and had kind of an indifferent experience with it. It wasn't very popular when I first came across this information, not in the US at least. So It was pretty limited. There was a few places online you could buy it. Like sometimes they'd have a powder version in health food stores. Mm-hmm. So I learned about it, thought it was really interesting, had purchased some of the powders and some different sources that I could find, and didn't have any like profound connection to it at that time, but was really fascinated by the story and how it was talked about in the Vedas, and in Ayurvedic medicine, it's considered the only true rasayana. And rasayana, it translates to path of essence. That's a Sanskrit term. Shilajit is also a Sanskrit term. And
so for those people that don't know what Shilajit is, can you give like a brief introduction to it?
Yeah. So the Sanskrit literally translates to destroyer of weakness or conqueror of mountains. And it's the blood of the mountain. It's this decomposed plant matter that has been inside of the Himalayas and other high altitude mountains around the world. And during the summer, when it gets really hot, it starts to exude out of the mountains, and you can collect it.
Like a resin, right?
It's like, it's a resin, but when it's first collected, it has to be purified to be properly used and consumed by humans. So what our Sherpa partners do, we work with the Sherpas in Nepal, who are the indigenous mountain tribes of the Himalayas, and they've been collecting and purifying Shilajit for millennia out there. So they actually harvest the Shilajit during a 6-week window during the summer, and then they carry it down into the villages where it's purified using spring water, Ayurvedic herbs, and sunlight. And that's about a 60-day process. So first part is they take all that resinous material and rocky material from the mountain, they purify it using the spring water and the Ayurvedic herbs, and it goes through 6 rounds of that until all of the impurities, all of the sediment, all of the insolubles are completely brought out, and you're left with this really beautiful resin that's completely water soluble, and it has the highest natural concentration of fulvic acid and fulvic minerals, more so than anything else on earth. It's the highest natural concentration of those fulvic compounds.
I think that our body needs something like 108 different minerals, right? And this has like, what, 98 of them?
Yeah, there's over 80 minerals in Shilajit that are also in the most, they're trace minerals in the most bioavailable form. So it's the form of minerals that your body can actually assimilate and use the best, which I think is an important distinction. And fulvic acid isn't really unique to Shilajit at all. You can find it everywhere, but it's what's missing from our soil because of modern agriculture. So that's one of the reasons that it's having so many profound effects and impacts and benefits for people today, is we're lacking a lot of this nutrition from our modern diets that used to be in our food over 100 years ago. So now we're replenishing that with the Shilajit, but it has all of these other adaptogenic properties, microbial metabolites, which is what fulvic acid is. These are actually compounds that are created by the microbes in the soil that eat and digest plant tannins, and then those become beneficial compounds for humans and animals. Okay. And it's very much in resonance with like just natural cycles of life, with modern farming and the way that we practice industrial agriculture.
Monoculture, right?
We monocrop things, so there's no biodiversity, and then there's over-tilling and over-harvesting of the crops. So what happens is nothing is allowed to actually decompose and return to the soil. That process of death is actually what replenishes the soil for new life to occur. So we've lost that with a lot of our modern practices when it comes to our food, and that's why I believe even cutting out all the ultra processed food and eating a clean diet, it's really difficult to actually get all of the nutrients that we need to thrive. And when you take something like Shilajit, it's like a biological homecoming. It's like waking up every cell in your body and being like, oh, finally, the fuel that I've been lacking. So
for sure,
I had that experience the first time I tried the resin, which was actually from my acupuncturist in Sedona.
Oh, cool.
Go to this really great acupuncturist named Adam DeViro, and he's based in Sedona, Arizona, where I'm from and used to live. And he actually was trading, I would trade him Chinese herbs. I was working with Ron Teagarden of Dragon Herbs at the time, and had a lot of his products. So I would trade him Chinese herbs for acupuncture sessions. And one session I go in there and he asked me if I'd ever tried Shilajit afterwards. I said, yeah, I have, I didn't really feel like too much of a difference with it. And he's like, have you ever tried the resin? I was like, no, so he puts a little wood spatula into this jar of sticky goo, and I put it under my tongue. It tastes like really intense and earthy and bitter. And I walked out of that session feeling that biological homecoming. Every cell in my body turned on, and I could feel lighter. And really, you know, I had a great session with the acupuncture as well, so I'm sure that helped. But it was not like leaving any other session, you know, that I had in the past. So a whole new type of mental clarity and just like inspiration, feeling really lit up. So I actually texted Adam like an hour afterwards and was like, man, like, you got to tell me where you got that. I've never experienced Shilajit like that. And I was able to work with him to get some more, which was really beneficial. I feel like I got some great results from it, and kind of lost touch with the source. And then there was a couple of companies that I looked into. I started to just like look specifically for the resin, knowing that that was what gave me the most profound immediate effects. And I struggled with inconsistency with different sources and brands and things that like, it was a lot more limited back then too with the options. So I tried kind of everything that was out there, and I stuck with the ones that I liked the most. But it was kind of like chasing the dragon. I was like wanting to get that effect that I got during that first acupuncture session, and like that first jar that I had. Yeah. And nothing was really living up to that. So a few years go by, and I have a good friend who's actually somebody who I worked with and had started to discover Shilajit with. And he's on his way out to Nepal to go trek the Himalayas with his wife. They're going out there for just to travel, just to go and check out Nepal and visit the Himalayas and go hiking and connect with the land out there. So I'm living in Las Vegas at the time, and him and his wife come and visit me and my partner on their way to Nepal. And the night before they fly out, we're out at dinner, and I look over at Will and I'm saying, you know, I would really love my own source of Shilajit. If you could ask some of the locals and just see if there's any connection out there to find like some real authentic gold grade Shilajit, then that would be wonderful. And it was very much like a self-serving ask. It was like, I just wanted it for myself. You know, again, no real intention of ever expanding it to what it's become today. That's for sure. You know, it's like at first it was very much just like, this is a need that I have, and I've been having a hard time fulfilling it on my, like with the US options. So let's, you know, my friend's going to the source. Let's see if we can source something. For sure. So he goes out there, and about 6 weeks go by, a little longer, and him and his wife return. We go out to dinner again, and they have some gifts that they brought back for us. So we're having this really nice dinner. They're telling us all about their trip, all the magic and synchronicities and the beauty of the Himalayas and how brilliant that all was. And after they share some of the stories and we connect, we start to receive these gifts that they brought us back. And a lot of beautiful things. You know, Nepal has so many like artisans and like people that are making like hand woven clothes and just like different types of textiles and jewelry, and it's a beautiful culture and beautiful place. And they brought back some things that really got to show, you know, they showed us through the gifting of how beautiful the culture and everything out there was. And they saved the best for last, because the last thing they pulled out of the bag was 2 jars. And one was a jar of Shilajit, one was a jar of wild jungle honey from Nepal. Oh, wow. And they told us about the Sherpas that they had hired to guide them on their trek through the Himalayas. They connected with one in particular who's named Niraj. And Niraj became my direct point of contact. I tried this Shilajit. Something really, an interesting side note that's part of the story is that during that gift exchange when they had returned from the Himalayas, me and Kate, my partner, were pregnant with our daughter, Revi, and we just told Aubrey, our oldest. So we were like second trimester at this point, like just starting to tell people. And when Will and Lena returned from their trip in Nepal and we were receiving these gifts, after they gave us the Shilajit and honey, they're like, but that's not the best thing. We're like, what is it? They're like, we're pregnant. And we're like, oh my God, we're pregnant too. So like we both learned at the same time that we were going to have babies together.
Wow.
Like, within a few weeks of each other. That's amazing. So yeah, they conceived Amina, their beautiful daughter, who was born like 6 weeks after Revi.
Wow.
While they were in the Himalayas. And we all took Shilajit during that period of pregnancy. So it was a very special time in all of our lives. This is...
Might help with fertility, so...
Yeah. That's a known benefit. Yeah, absolutely. But it was very supportive for me. You know, I had the dragon that I'd been chasing. I felt like I'd caught it. I was eating the Shilajit and I was feeling very high vibrational, very just lit up and energized. And I had been working in kind of like a corporate-y, like office job in preparation for having a child and like, you know, being the provider for my family. That was the option at the time that I had pursued. And it came with a lot of stress and it was taxing, you know, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. You know,
for sure.
It's like we have a little bit of what I think is like a systemic issue, maybe even an epidemic of people living like lives where they're spending a large portion of it in a career that they don't love and aren't feeling purposeful. And I was definitely one of those people for that time period, you know, doing what I could to just make sure that my family had a roof over their head and food was on the table and all that stuff.
Living in that zone of excellence, right? Like that we talked about before.
Yeah, you know, definitely, because I was doing sales and I was good at it, you know, so it was something that I saw my income continue to increase and I was getting praised by my employer and my managers and all that. But it was very soul sucking. So, and
just on a side note, what I mentioned was from a book that Ben actually recommended to me. Remind me of the name.
The Big Leap.
The Big Leap.
Gay Hendricks.
Yeah. And I'm reading it right now. So I'm probably like a fourth of the way in. And this book, as soon as I picked it up, it's been really transformational because it shows where our glass ceiling is, like that misconceived endpoint, that top of that the upper limit, yeah. Where, you know, and it's all an illusion because it's all in the mind and we can just break through. But there's these techniques and these 4 levels that the author talks about. Do you want to talk a little bit about those? Because you're a little more familiar than me.
Yeah. So we have our zone of incompetence, which is where we don't want to live at all. It's the things that we're terrible at. We have our zone of competence where it's like the things we can do. For me, that's like washing dishes, you know, which can be meditative sometimes. So, you know, but yeah, it's not something that I'm fantastic at or would be paid well for compared to other people.
Yeah.
And then you have your zone of excellence, which is, this is actually the complacency zone, the most dangerous zone, because it's where you can actually live a pretty good life and, you know, make good money and serve people in a way that they feel inclined to praise you over, but it's not where you really shine the brightest. Yeah,
it makes me think of like the Instagram illusion, right? Like it looks really nice on Instagram, but if you bring these people into like a really intimate container, like a men's or a women's circle, they may be like, actually, you know, I have all these things, but I'm really not feeling satiated with life.
Exactly. Yeah. And that lack of satiation, it comes from not tapping into our divine gifts. You know, that's really what I get from the information in the Big Leap, is that our zone of genius is the place where we're going to excel in a way that is unique to our gifts and our drive, our motivation, our purpose in life. And that is where we're going to find the most alignment with other people and attracting the right people into the fold. And it's where we're going to inspire other people to also live in their zone of genius. And I find that the more I put myself into that place, which for me, it's collaborative creation. It's expressing in a creative way in a collaborative environment. I work really well in groups of people that are focused on a collective mission or, creation. And when that comes out with my music a lot, when I'm in the studio, especially with this new project that I've been working on, High Freaks. And when I'm with the collaborators and the people, the other musicians that I work with, it's like a whole new level of my consciousness and my abilities unlocks. And now I'm able to just really be in that flow state. A lot of people call it being in flow state, where it's hard to achieve that state without being in your zone of genius or having a really, really deep spiritual practice where you're, constantly cleansing and purifying and staying at a high vibe. But I think it'd be really hard to do that and not find yourself in your zone of genius. They kind of correlate.
For sure. Yeah. So it's after the zone of excellence is the zone of genius. And that's what you were mentioning. So yeah, it's really interesting for me to observe that in myself as I read the book and really tune into where am I in my zone of excellence and where am I in my zone of genius and how much time am I spending in that zone of genius. And then I think that naturally I like to surround myself with people that are really living with and by their gifts, and spending large amounts of time in that zone of genius. But I mean, it's possible to be in that almost all the time, but it's hard in today's society, especially if you live in a city, to be in that all the time, right?
Yeah, it can be challenging. And I think that Gay Hendricks, the author, actually has a follow-up book that I haven't read yet that really clarifies where the zone of genius is a place that we want to find ourselves in as often as possible and work towards living there more. But it's not necessarily about staying there forever or just being in there solely. So I'm still exploring what that means for me. But in relation to Lajit, in relation to my music, in relation to just life in general, how I lead my family and show up in my household, the more that I find myself in a collaborative environment where I'm able to focus on what we can achieve through creation, what we can accomplish through the inspired, channeled, divine guidance and thoughts and ideas that are coming into the field when we put our minds together.
For sure.
And I love the way that translates to marketing. I love the way that translates to storytelling and the messaging of our business. I love the way that translates to writing a song and capturing a moment in the studio where we know that language, it's only about 7% of the spoken words, what we're verbalizing. About 7%. The other 93% is all body language and tone and the parts of language that are a lot more subtle and not thought about as much. But if you've ever been in sales, one of the pieces of training that I got in the call center was it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And the customer's never going to feel more passionate than you are. And that's why we talk with our chest and project our voice and get loud and get excited. And they say smile and dial, when you're out doing phone sales, especially, you can hear somebody smile through the phone. And have you ever we've all received telemarketer phone calls, spam calls, whatever. If you've ever answered one and you've got somebody on the phone that's just hits a nerve with you where you just don't want to hang up on them because you can hear them smiling, you hear them having fun, and they're like, hey, Peter, you're an old friend or something. And they're trying to upgrade some subscription or they're trying to sell you something.
Right.
But that energy is infectious. And that energy is really what I get to bring to the table for people in those collaborative environments and bring out of people when I'm finding myself in my zone of genius, creating things in regards to messaging and marketing, music, and helping to establish and delegate who does what on the team. It's stepping into a leadership role where a big part of that is knowing when to let others lead too, right? So when I'm in a studio session, we have an engineer in there, and I'm not going to go and start messing with buttons and like things on the mixer and being like, no, like record us this way, you know, because that's in my zone of like incompetence,
right?
Like, I wouldn't even know,
right?
So
let's try this one.
Yeah. So in order for me to best perform in my zone of genius, it's being able to recognize and inform and instruct people in theirs, right?
For sure.
So yeah, it's been a beautiful process to build Lajit, be raising my family, be focused on music. I have all these buckets in my life that I'm constantly looking to fill. Sometimes I can feel like one's really full and the other ones are starting to feel drained, which is challenging. You know, it's difficult. I want to show up as a good father and a good partner. It's number one. In relation to the business, now that we are growing a team and it's more than just like the solopreneur journey and there's people involved. I mean, you being one of them, you know, and different teams handling different sales channels. I now have a responsibility and accountability to this beyond just me and my family and the Sherpas, which that was already a big responsibility and felt like a large enough mission, but God has better plans for me than I do, I guess.
For sure. Yeah. And just to rewind it a little bit. So your buddy came and visited, right? He brought the Shilajit to you. You got really inspired. So how did it transition into where it's at now from there?
Yeah, great question. So I'm living in Las Vegas. My daughter is about to be born, and I'm working on my album that's it's out. It came out in 2020.
Ben's music is awesome, by the way. We'll drop all the links in the bio. Yeah.
Street Bangers and Bitter Herbs was my kind of like debut as Ben Steezy, the hip hop herbalist. And it was a project I was working on between 2017 and 2020. I set the release date for Earth Day 2020, 4/22, which is also my partner Kate's birthday.
Cool.
And we found out that we were pregnant the year prior, and Revy was due around my birthday in May. She ended up being born on May 25th. But if you guys remember back to May 25th, 2020, we were in peak COVID, and actually. Revy was born the day that the George Floyd thing happened. He died, and all of the BLM protests and all this stuff started. So that was totally off our radar. Like when Revy was born, we did a home birth. Thankfully, our birth plan stayed the same from the beginning to completion. And during that time, I remember just being so grateful for Kate because she had made the decision that she wanted to have Revy at home. She wanted to do things all natural. And it's something that's, you know, we obviously talked about when we decided that we were going to have children together. Like these were values that we shared, but just to see her really fully own that and want to do it in this way that was like a really big reclamation for her in like just her body and having children and what it means to be a mother. So I was grateful to just support her through that. And when we decided to go the home birth route and we're looking into our options, we wanted to do a water birth. And because this is our first time doing anything like this, we decided to go to this midwifery and get like a midwife and a doula. And we took hypnobirthing classes. It was all, you know,
awesome.
Yeah, we were very much committed to doing it the right way and learning as much as we could. So that served us. I think that, you know, me and Kate have talked about having more kids, and she's been very clear with me that she thinks that the next time that we have if we have more children, she wants to free birth and like just like, you know, maybe do the water again, maybe like bathtub, but just, you know, she feels confident in herself. And I think that's so empowering, such an empowering message for women and, you know, their partners that we have this divine technology that is our body, our soul inhabits it. And it knows what to do automatically without us.
Oh yeah.
Our mind actually doesn't play like any role in keeping us alive when it comes to just the natural functions. So I'm really grateful that I got to witness her tap into that as a mother and grow new life and bring new life into the world.
It's beautiful.
The women that were in our living room with us when Revi was born, it was really beautiful because we had this great doula named Jasmine, and our midwife and Kate's mom and the lady who built the bathtub. They were all there at one point or another for the ceremony. But Jasmine, she brought all of these like really beautiful tools and offerings to create ceremony in space. She had all these crystal sound bowls. She had white sage and crystals, this spiky amethyst that Kate actually got to grip onto and squeeze while she was going through labor.
Oh, wow.
And it was really beautiful. We had like Inya and Yama playing, like, you know, just like some light music in the background. And it was all really, really, I mean, just the most beautiful day of my life, honestly. I was in the tub watching my daughter crown, going to catch her. And as she's crowning, Jasmine starts playing one of the crystal sound bowls. And I can just feel, we both just feel the vibration of the sound bowl in the water. And it's like the ripples just becoming sacred geometry and us going into this full tribal moment of bringing new life. And Kate gives Revi a push. She comes out and like fully animates inside of the water. I pick her up and like look into her eyes. She looks into my eyes. Oh, and that was the moment I was born. Yeah. And she's been my greatest teacher ever since. Every day, every moment. She just turned 5. So I'm really grateful for that little girl.
She's awesome. And
the reason I tell the birth story, because it's very much a preamble to the origin story of Lajit. During this time, I'm in contact with the Sherpas. Me and Niraj become very good friends through WhatsApp, and we talk on the phone pretty regularly. We text pretty regularly. And I decided that I wanted to purchase 10 kilos of Shilajit from him because I was just so impressed with it. And that felt like a lifetime supply to me. Like 10 kilos of Shilajit's a lot for just like a family. So
that's a lot, because for those that don't know, you take like the size of a granule of rice every like once a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 10 kilos is probably enough to cover this whole table.
Yeah, it was a lot, but it felt really good. I was honored. I could tell that it was really well received. That meant a lot to Niraj and his family and his people and the Sherpas that are involved in gathering the Shilajit. So
that's probably enough money for them for the whole year.
Can be, yeah. I mean, like, it depends on the circumstance in the family, of course, but the means that they have out there, it mostly comes from tourism and property and ownership of things. There are some things in Nepal that are like, you'd be surprised they are rather expensive, like even like comparatively and relatively to the US, but there's other parts that are much more minimized with like the expenses and cost of living. So yeah, it balances out a little bit, but it definitely does, like, the US dollar stretches a little bit further in Nepal for sure. And when COVID happened, one of the things that Niraj shared with me was that they were heavily impacted because all the planes were grounded. There's nobody flying into Nepal. So now tourism was at an all-time low, and they make 80 to 90% of their income from these guided treks that, you know, my friends Will and Lena had actually met him through that service that they provide. So he's expressing this to me, and he asked me, you know, he's like, I would never ask you for like any charity or handout, but like, could you possibly purchase some more Shilajit? Like that would really help.
After the 10 kilos?
Yeah, this is like a few months, maybe even. I was taking this Shilajit from the time that Will and Lena brought it back to us until this conversation. About a year had passed, at least like a year and a half, maybe. So we're talking. Yeah, this is after, Revy's about 6 months old now. So, he asked me if I could purchase more Shilajit and it would really help them. They're just recovering. They've been in this state of kind of economic despair since the beginning of 2020. Now we're in like, mid 2021. So I'm looking at all the Shilajit in my closet. I still got like 9.5 kilos or more, after giving it out to people and taking it myself and all that.
Yeah.
So I'm just really honest with him. Say, I think I have enough Shilajit for myself, but I've had a lot of really positive feedback from the people that I've shared it with, and there might be something viable here in terms of a business. I would want to ask you what that would look like and, what our ceiling is. What's the annual supply? How much can we sustainably source? There was a lot of questions that came up when we started to explore that idea.
And you wanted to do it really right.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, I have some experience, the most extensive career experience that I have is in health and wellness. And have a very unique relationship with both Eastern medicine and Western medicine, because I've been through the ringer of like all the things that people get infuriated over, and they become just totally jaded with like what Western medicine is. And I've also had lots of surgeries and things that have actually helped me that are gifts of Western medicine.
For sure.
It's the aftercare, the follow-up treatment, and the prescriptions that followed those surgeries that caused a lot of the problems, and where I started to feel that jadedness, that disdain for what the medical system in our culture is and Western society is. So I feel like part of my goal here is to take the best of both worlds and marry the two. And I feel like the way to get there is to lean into modern technology and like science and the ways that we can actually expand upon what is working and what is good. And bridging that with the guidance of indigenous leaders who still are the carriers of ancient wisdom and ancient medicine. So the Sherpas in my eyes are very much that. There's a lot of tribes in South America that I've worked with, Native American tribes here in the US that I've worked with. And their guidance, their wisdom, and the way they carry themselves and the medicine that they still use from their ancient traditions is, I believe, one of the greatest gifts that we could give to humanity right now in preservation of that. Because
for sure,
the way that we're going, it's a very dangerous road. Our soil has been depleted so much over just the last 50 years that we have about a fifth or even as little as an eighth of the nutrition in produce, even organic produce.
I think it's something like you have to eat 9 oranges to get the same nutrition today as one orange would be like 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, it's like 5 apples. I've seen these comparison charts, and I've done a lot of deep dives and research on this, because it's a big reason why Shilajit is so important and so effective. And it can be a conversation starter for soil integrity and some of these things that we've missed out on by allowing corporate greed and government subsidies and all of these other influences to really strip away what's valuable and vital to our food supply, so that it can be mass produced, addictive, and part of this like overconsumption program.
And it's interesting because most people like intuitively try like eat more to get more nutrients, but that doesn't always equate, right?
Correct. Yeah. There's macronutrients and there's micronutrients, right? Mm-hmm. And oftentimes people will tell you that a calorie is a calorie, and that, if you're tracking your macros, that it's just the ratios that are important for weight loss or for optimization, when we know that our mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It's responsible for producing ATP, mm-hmm. which is the basis of all physiological processes in the body.
Energy, basically, for anything.
Yeah, it's our cellular currency, mm-hmm. right? So the thing about the way that ATP is produced is that there are micronutrients and there are parts of our diet that you can't just find in macros. Like, it's not just calling like a calorie is a calorie at this point. Mm-hmm. It has to do with how is this being absorbed in the body? What's it actually doing for the cell? And is it the building block to create the right hormone response, the right production of ATP, the right amount of vitality for our body, mm-hmm. as opposed to just, kind of throwing calories in, mm-hmm. And that's one of my favorite things about Shilajit, is that you can add it into your morning routine, mm-hmm. and then because of the microbial metabolites and it's the fulvic acid in there and some of the other metabolites are sub nanoparticles, so they bypass the digestive process. Mm-hmm. They get right into the cells, and this is super fuel. It's food for our cells to create more energy, more ATP. Now, when you're taking the Shilajit in the morning on an empty stomach or pairing it with some honey or some fat, now you go to eat breakfast in an hour, or you drink a protein shake, or you take your other supplements. Mm-hmm. All of those things that you're doing, especially if you're already investing in a clean and healthy lifestyle and like getting organic stuff, wouldn't you want to get the most out of it? The Shilajit's can help you to absorb the nutrients in those other foods, mm-hmm. and those other supplements much more optimally, mm-hmm. than if you would have just taken them alone. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the foundations of why I believe this is so important. And that's come through years of research and like figuring this out for myself. But Niraj talking to me, he could feel my passion for this and see why I was doing it. And he kind of gave me the inspiration to like really lead the charge on this. He's like, listen, like, you understand this story better than anybody I've ever talked to. Mm-hmm. And you're somebody who I can trust and believe in. So what if we created a partnership where you were exclusively buying the Shilajit from us for the US market and global market. Mm-hmm. And we can create this partnership so that we both benefit, we both thrive, and it's a win-win for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I love win-wins, win-win-wins.
It's the best.
So I was very open to that. After about 3 or 4 conversations and some back and forth about what was possible, what was needed, what our goals were, we had developed a business plan. I launched an LLC here, and we set up Nepal's version of an LLC for their export company. Mm-hmm. And September 1st, 2021 was when Lajit Gold officially launched.
Cool.
Which is also a really interesting story. We were back in Sedona, living in the house that I had previously worked in with Will.
Okay, so you were in Vegas for a little bit, and then you went back to Sedona.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Right before Revy turned 1, we made our way back to Sedona. Arizona had, like, it was the first state that like got its sanity back after COVID. Like, we were still feeling a lot of oppression here in Nevada with like having a mask and like all these other things. The vaccine was like starting to become a thing. And it was being, you could feel it in the air in most cities in America at that time.
For sure.
So, and the mask wasn't helping with that. So Sedona and most of Arizona opened up before anybody else. You know, they started to just act like business as usual, and there was no mask in stores and stuff like that. So it felt right. Felt like a good place to be. We went out there, and we're in the process of launching Lajit, but it was very slow moving at first. You know, in order to actually bring a supplement to market the right way, it takes a lot of there's a lot of effort that goes into the behind the scenes that people don't usually see.
Yeah.
And these are the corners that could be cut by companies that don't care, right? It's like the lab testing, the CGMP certifications with your co-packers, making sure that everything is being done to a standard that you can feel really good about, which crosses into packaging and the way that it's sourced, the sustainability of it, and making sure that we're using really good high quality glass that doesn't have any types of like lead or other heavy metals in it. You know, these are the types of things that I had to look into and start to investigate and kind of build from the ground up with not having, like, I'd never brought a product to market prior to this. Not in this way, at least, you know. So I was feeling like we had bitten off kind of a lot, and I'd overextended myself financially a little bit, which was really terrifying for me at the time because I had a little girl that was about to be 1. We just moved my family to Sedona, which is way more expensive than Vegas was at the time. And
still is.
Yeah. And I was full-time entrepreneur at this point. I was working with a buddy, Josh, who we started a media company together, and it was basically creating marketing funnels for real estate agents and other people with online presence. And that was pretty soul sucking too. Wasn't really in my zone of genius. Wasn't really what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do media and have like a media component and company, but the people who we were serving wasn't the ideal like clients for us, I guess. So super grateful for that time, what I learned during that experience, because it served me a lot today with Lajit. But that was just kind of like a way to make, it was a means to an end back then. While we were building Lajit, we had this that was keeping the ball moving and making sure that we had income to survive. So we're now in August 2021. We'd been building up our community in Sedona. You know, I have a lot of friends that I'd grown up with there, and people that I've just known in that community forever, plus a lot of new faces around. We had started to host Taco Tuesday at our house.
Nice.
And we would just do like an organic taco spread. We
should start doing that here.
Yeah, I'd love that actually. But yeah, it was really interesting because I felt so much love, and I felt a lot of abundance from the community, from my family, from the support systems that I had. It was still really stressful for me, and I probably put my family through way more than I'm proud to admit, just because I was carrying what felt like a pretty big responsibility, and sometimes it felt like a burden to keep up with the rent on this house and make sure that things were going well. I broke my hand, actually punched a hole in our wall out of anger and frustration during this process, like before, while we were still doing the media company before Lajit launched. And that was really challenging. Created a lot of dissonance in my home and like just with myself. I felt a lot of shame and guilt of letting myself react in that way. And not only did I damage a wall, but I had to get 2 surgeries on my hand and my wrist to like, I broke a bunch of bones and just really dumb.
Left or right?
It's my right. And
yeah, I've done that before, and it's, for me, it was like super vulnerable because I felt like I couldn't defend myself. You know, I had to, it happened around that time too. And I broke it. I broke my finger like right under my right under my pinky, and I found out that you can see these 2 little scars where they put the pins in. But,
yep, I got the same ones right here.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
and that, you know what that is? That's your heart line.
Yeah,
that's your heart meridian.
So this is something I learned. I went to a surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, I guess, in Flagstaff, and they told me that this is the most common thing that they see in their office was men in like our age range that break their hand because of punching something.
Wow.
And that just broke my heart because I realized, like, throughout all of this, whenever I'm really feeling like I hit a bottom or I'm like holding on to a lot of pain, and oftentimes it makes me want to retreat inward and distance myself, not share or open up about it because I feel a lot of shame and embarrassment around these things. But once I start to actually release and lean in and share, I realize that like so many people are experiencing this pain and like going through the same, like I would never imagine that, you know, somebody like yourself could like slip in a moment of high emotions and punch something, whether it's like feeling like you're, whatever it is.
I know. And it was, for me, just on a side note, it was, I had put a thick pillow down, and then I had the yoga mat under it. I was like, I'm going to do this, in a safe, healthy way, and I still ended up breaking my hand. And so I'm like, damn, because, I run different men's groups and have for over 5 years. And there's like safe and healthy ways to express and move through anger. And punching a pillow or like screaming into a pillow is one of those things that, we teach men to do. And I was like, oh gosh, I should have put some more layers down but then like there was so much that I got from that, like on a personal level, there was so much like of these inner standings about myself and about the anger and like understanding it deeper and where it roots from and like why I had let this relationship go to that place at the time, and like all these things about myself that needed that for me to like have that experience so that I could really reflect on a lot of what was happening in my life.
Yeah. Oftentimes I feel like injuries, they can be upper limit problems. They can be things that we create because there's some part of our system, some part of ourselves that doesn't feel like we deserve to experience the joy and the love and the life that is coming into the fold. So we create a reason to, prevent us from feeling too good. So I believe that injuries can be a result of that. And they can also be a way for us to get the nudge to slow down when we're not taking the breaks that we need ourselves. I often have seen that, witnessed it, and experienced it myself with sickness and injury where if you're burning the candle, you're burning the midnight oil, you're burning the candle at both ends, that type of deal, eventually your body's going to slow you down if you don't do it yourself. So that very much, sounds like it could be the case with what you were going through in that moment. And yeah, it's unique, for me, like I had a lot of suppressed anger that I didn't feel comfortable sharing or expressing growing up. It was something that got internalized for me a lot. And I felt like I had done so much like inner child work and healing from trauma and letting go of stuff, releasing things. I went through the 12 steps and like did recovery meetings and freed myself of addictions and let go, so much stuff. But then having a kid and being with a partner, those are two things that will show you your shadow.
Biggest mirrors you could imagine, right?
Absolutely. And my initiations have all been in this last 5 years of being a dad and having really just not only raising a family and being the protector and provider, but doing that side by side with creating this business and bringing it to the world and being in stewardship to that mission, while still, wanting to eat healthy, go to the gym, make music, write, create, shoot videos, do podcasts, like all the stuff that feeds my soul.
For sure.
So these last few years have been like a balancing act, and I have to just remember, like, driving to the soul-sucking job, spending 9 hours away from my family under fluorescent lights, staring at a computer screen, selling stuff I didn't even believe in to people that I didn't even want to talk to. This is a prayer being answered right now, baby.
Right.
This is what I've been waiting for.
This is what you're calling in.
This is what I prayed for every day, every night on those drives, those commutes, the hour that I spent in the car when I wasn't listening to my music or a podcast or doing something to get my vibe a little bit higher because I was so low. I was praying to God for this moment right now to be in a position where I feel proud of what I'm doing, the legacy I'm creating for my family, the legacy I'm creating for myself, the people in this world that I'm inspiring and helping through service and stewardship, and how that's being reflected back to me, poured into my cup. Now people want me to be on their podcast, and people want to listen to the new Ben Steezy music and the new High Freaks music, and people are really interested in Shilajit and want to learn more about Lajit Gold and like what we're doing. So
for sure,
now my conversations, my day to day, the text messages I receive, the emails that I get, they don't feel like a burden. It's like, wow, people are lit up about what we're doing, and we're creating a movement. We got a group of bio wizards that are ready to reclaim their health, take back their vitality, stop giving our power away to anything outside of ourselves that's not here to serve us, whether that's a corporate entity or somebody that's mass producing medicine that's actually poison, whether it's somebody that's pushing propaganda and an agenda that is getting us to want to like sponsor all of these different proxy wars and like ideas and things that have really just disconnected us from our true self, kept us oppressed. And, no victimhood here at all. Like, it's the reclaim game. Like, we're ready to take the world back and take our own lives back. And that's what I'm seeing in our customers, the people that are coming to the fold, the people that are joining the team, the messages that I get on Instagram or anywhere else that are just, you can hear that people are starting to tune in. They're waking up and they are getting something from what we're promoting to actually like help the cause of us pushing the ball forward and, creating a humanity that I can really feel good leaving my daughters with. Like, that's important to me.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I just want to reflect to you that like, it is a movement. You've made it a movement. You've created a movement, and there's so many people part of that now that are seeing the authenticity and the purity and this completely new paradigm of how business can be run. And for me, that's why I was like a full yes right away when I met you, because it was like everything that you were doing, that's what I was imagining doing. I was like, okay, like I want to do it really clean. I want to like all the things you're already doing. And I'm like, okay, this feels really good, because not only are you, paying fair wages to the Sherpas and having the product lab tested and clean, like everything's super clean and the gold standard of Shilajit, you're also bringing in people and supporting them, and they're supporting you, and there's this synchrony that's happening, and everybody's on the same page, and we're all lifting each other up. And, for me, it's like, that's what the new earth and the new age is really all about. It's no longer about like one person, succeeding really well, and then everybody else just can come over and, hang out. It's like, we're all there, and we're all lifting each other up. And because of that, we're all able to shine our light and bring it so much further out into the world and into the galaxy, to be felt by all the people and by all the beings outside of this planet, and so for me, I think it's an amazing thing you're doing, and I'm really happy to be part of the team. I help Ben with the Amazon side of things and keeping that going and expanding and growing with the ads and everything like that. And I love it because there's so many amazing people that are either creating content about it or coming to the retreats or facilitating at the retreats. And some of them I haven't met yet, but I just feel their energy and we're connected through Instagram and things like that. But it's awesome because it's attracting a very aligned, very aligned group of people.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm blown away by that constantly, and it's the way that people like you and Augie came into the fold. It's the way that people like Pablo come into the fold, and he was our office manager for a year while we had an office here in Las Vegas. And then now partnering with Hemp Lucid, which is my favorite CBD company. They've before I even knew them and had a personal connection with them, I had tried some of their product at a psychedelic wellness conference at Area 15 here, Meet Delic. And it was a great time, but I had taken some of their samples of CBD, and they have this organic full spectrum CBD extract that's in coconut derived MCT oil. It's certified organic, and it's powerful and potent. It feels good, and they're using a good genetics, and they're doing everything to a high standard. So for years, people would ask me for CBD recommendations, and I just tell them what to look for. Look for something that has minimal ingredients. Like, it should just be full spectrum hemp oil and MCT oil, and look for something that's lab tested. Look for something that's organic if possible. And they're hitting all these marks. So I had developed this relationship with them, and they really love the Shilajit products that we're putting out. I really love their CBD products. So we started to do some cross-pollination collaborations online. And now as they're growing, they're now doing full-blown distribution for their product line and a few other curated brands that they have brought Lajit into. And they're doing all of our fulfillment now as well. So we actually were able to close our office here in Vegas and make our fulfillment times and the way that our products are delivered and packaged has all improved. We've minimized the cost, and we've been able to pass that savings along to our customers and in investing in the new packaging and all of the ways that we've upgraded and updated the brand. So it's been a beautiful thing, just watching people get inspired and fired up about this, and then coming in and adding value where they can because they really believe in it and want to be a part of it for that reason alone. So yeah, thank you for being one of those soldiers on the journey with me. A big theme for me with this business is stewardship. I say that a lot with Lajit because I really do feel like it was an opportunity that was just kind of presented to me. It was put into my lap in a way, but it was like having a little child in my lap that didn't have its mommy or daddy and needed me, right? Mm-hmm. It was okay, I'm responsible for this now, even though it just landed in my lap. Even though I was just minding my own business, going to work, and all of a sudden now I got this kid to take care of. But
well, it's become its own entity now. It's a movement. It's way more than just a Shilajit brand. It's become something way bigger. So it's awesome to watch the evolution. I mean, this packaging is epic and totally next level. And also, we're going to be releasing shots in the next couple of months, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, just to wrap up the Sedona, our launch story.
Oh yeah.
We are now months into investing into this brand, and I've now purchased quite a bit more Shilajit from the Sherpas. So at this time, funds are pretty limited, and I start to go into debt just to keep things moving and to build this brand. So we're cruising through August. We get the labels back. We have the co-packer online. We get our first lab test back. Everything's looking good. And we're ready to start packaging. We're ready to start bringing the product to market and to launch. It gets to the end of August, and I'm starting to feel the stress. I'm sitting here, I'm still healing from a broken hand. I'm feeling like a little under the weather, like my immune system is getting run down because of how stressed I was and how tight money was and all the late nights that I was spending with, like, if it wasn't the business, it was the kids. If it wasn't, it was one thing or another. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty close to like the verge of a breakdown. And then we get the last order of labels that we needed to launch the Shilajit resin, which was the first and only product that we launched in the beginning. And we have all these jars that just got packaged at our co-packer, got the lab test back. We're just waiting on these labels and we're like ready to rock. So it's the last day of August, and September 1st, 2021 happened to land on a Tuesday. When I broke my hand, I had to sign up for, like Arizona's like medical, like fast food, like whatever it's called, but, when I did that, we got approved for food stamps too. So I was able to go get the surgery I needed on my hand, but then we also got, an EBT card for our family. And if it wasn't for that, Taco Tuesday probably wouldn't have happened that week, but we decided that we were going to launch Lajit at our home in Sedona and invite everybody in our network that we could, everybody in Sedona that we could, to be there. And it was the last day of August. Rent was due on the 1st, and September 1st, we were like $800 short for rent, basically. We needed a bit of a miracle to like just get through the next month. Yeah. So I'm with my family and Josh, who helped to, like, initially he was my partner in the media company, and he helped us build the brand with Lajit and like get the website and labels launched initially. So we're all preparing. He goes to the store and gets all the taco stuff with the EBT card. We start to make organic horchata for Taco Tuesday that we can infuse the Shilajit in. So we have like a drink to serve that has the Shilajit in it. And we build this beautiful pyramid on the altar in our living room of all the Shilajit resin that's been labeled and ready.
Oh, cool.
And sent out the mass text to everybody. Told everybody Taco Tuesday was going down. It was a really special one. We're launching a business. We want everybody to come prepared to support and be a part of that. And it ended up being a huge success. We had like 40 people show up, and we fed everybody organic tacos and Shilajit infused horchata, and had a really great night. Then somebody had asked us if we were going to explain like what the pyramid of beautiful jars in the living room was. So we were like, okay, yeah, everybody had a chance to eat and like you're feeling good and full. Let's talk about Lajit. And I basically just shared the story of connecting with the Sherpas, and we're in the house in Sedona that Will and Lena had been living in previously, which was really funny because they were the ones that brought us the Shilajit. Now we're living in their house that they just moved out of, and that's where we're launching the brand. So
full circle,
very full circle. And we gave everybody a special price on the Shilajit resin. We decided that those jars were going to retail for $60. And for our friends and our family that were there with us that night, we were just happy to extend a special deal on each jar for $40. And everybody went home after a great night, felt like really successful. And we went to tally up what we had sold, and it was like 21 jars or something. Like it was $840. Mm-hmm. So we just barely made exactly what we needed to pay rent the next day. Mm-hmm. And gosh, what a wild, like, and exciting and thrilling thing that was, because now I made it past the thing that was stressing me out the most, which is how I'm going to pay rent in 2 days.
Right.
When we're, $800 short. And we made it past that. We're now at like zero, right? I pay rent and we're ground zero. But we have all this Shilajit, and we just launched this brand, and all these people that were at our house last night were like super excited about it.
Yeah.
And a bunch of them bought stuff,
Yeah.
So I'm using that as motivation and encouragement. And I took that opportunity. Sedona's my hometown. It's my stomping grounds. I know the business owners there. I know the people there. I went out there and I just looked at Josh and looked at Kate and said, I'm going to go and open like 6 new wholesale accounts today. And yeah, sure enough. I mean, it was like every store I walked into, I knew the places to go. I knew like the places that would say yes. And they've been a foundation of building this in a sustainable way, our retailers, because all those shops in Sedona, they were the first ones that we started to work with. But those accounts were the model that we use to build our direct relationships with the 300 plus retailers that we work with today, which is create personal connection, make sure that they have education on the products, but beyond education, get them on it, right? And this is free game for any business owner, anybody that has a product-based business. When you're relying on retailers to sell your product, you can have great packaging, you can have great marketing materials, that stuff all helps. And of course, it's like important. But the most important thing that we've found is enrolling the person who interacts with customers into the mission and vision of our brand. So once they know why we're so passionate about this, why I take Shilajit every day as a non-negotiable, and why they should too, they're going to be a lot more likely and even inspired to share that with their customers. So when we onboard a new retailer and we're giving them samples, we're giving them the education tools, we're doing a Zoom training with their staff if they'd like that, this is empowering them to now become a part of our army and a part of this bigger vision and this bigger mission of actually restoring the vital nutrients that's missing from our bodies so that we can vibe high and we can be of the best use and the best service and use our gifts in the most profound ways. And from that, create a humanity in a future where we're not poisoning the food supply, we're not monocropping, we are allowing things to regenerate and die and go back into the earth. But if we started that process today, we stop spraying glyphosate, we stop all the dangerous herbicides and pesticides, we stop monocropping, we go right to regenerative farming, we start pulling from Rudolf Steiner and all of these people who have like proliferated ways that we can actually heal our planet and our soil and keep things living in a sustainable way. We're still looking at 40 to 80 years, to
regenerate everything.
To just get back to pre-1920s soil integrity. So that's scary to me, because that's very unlikely to happen in my lifetime because we're not starting today. And hopefully we start in my lifetime. Hopefully we start before my, children get any older and we can actually create some sense of a timeline to get back on track. But in the meantime, it's about what we can do in our own communities, our own homes. The more people that are actually creating these regenerative practices for themselves, growing their own food, making sure that they are taking care of the soil in which they inhabit. That's one of the ways that we can be part of the solution. Composting is the whole reason composting works is this exact thing that we're missing, right? We're not letting things die,
right,
and actually return to the soil. So there's a lot of things that people can practice just in their own homes. And even growing, if you don't have a yard, you can actually grow food in like hydroponic systems and aeroponic systems that have been made for like apartments and for places that don't have necessarily like a yard or ground. But That stuff helps us reclaim a little bit of our food sovereignty and like some of the nutrition, but it doesn't solve the deeper problem, which is our soil's been completely destroyed and depleted from all of these practices that are not sustainable. Now, life is beautiful and strong and resilient, so regenerating the soil is possible.
Oh,
and
for sure.
It can happen in our lifetime, but it's going to be a long road. And Shilajit as like a bridge, as a conversation starter is a great thing. Also as a right now solution of like, hey, get these nutrients and these minerals back in to the body they're missing. Like that it's there for that, right?
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's teaching us things like, okay, we now know how to make synthetic fulvic acid in a lab. Now, do I think that that's going to be as beneficial as taking like a gold grade Shilajit resin? No. But what's interesting about that is fulvic acid has the ability to purify water, has the ability to structure water, has the ability to clean soil and like really give back to our planet what it needs to thrive and to like continue to produce in the way that it wants to.
Even when it's synthetic?
Yeah. I mean, it's synthesized from organic material.
Oh, okay.
So you would take a source material like soil from Antarctica, for instance.
Okay.
And then through a laboratory environment, you would get, you'd be able to extract the fulvic acid out of that basically and create like close to pure fulvic acid. And this is possible to do. And it's actually becoming less expensive to do, but now the hurdle that we have is the source material, right? We have to be able to sustainably source the source material, which again, we get creative and start to innovate the way that we do it. I think it's possible, but in theory, we could start to speed up the process of our soil regeneration, like getting the soil back into a state of integrity by adding in things like fulvic acids, humic acids, and that is going to be one of the best ways to bring the nutrients back in and get it back into a state where things can grow really vital and full of life. But it doesn't do much for us if we're still spraying the chemicals and doing the thing, like all of the practices that have got us to this state. It's kind of like a wash if we don't do something to correct the problem first. So
yeah, and I agree with all that for sure. And then the reason I brought up composting was that in Salt Lake City, which I was just in last week, they have a program that you take the city picks up the compost and then they turn it into methane gas. And so the city's benefiting and then they're composting, and then, you know, that soil can be put back into given to the farmers, given to, you know, all these amazing places that could continue to help bring those nutrients back into the soil. And I would love to know how they did that in Salt Lake City so that we could start doing that in more and more cities around the world. You know, like what was their process like to get the city to pick that up, and then what had to go through legislation for that to all move forward. But if every city had just that going, that would make huge impact on the planet and the country and whatever other places wanted to start to use that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that's something that I see our community and our platform being more of a resource for in the near future, is how we can activate these types of things in our communities, where we can look at people that are doing something that is innovative and exciting towards this mission and this goal, and just giving them spotlight, resources, figuring out how we can replicate what they're doing well and what's working in our own communities. That's, yeah, a huge part of the mission. And what's really important to me as we go into this next phase of the business that is Lajit Gold, we're going to be launching our retreat series and getting into Lajit retreats. And that's a way to really anchor in the community aspect of this, because I believe that's such an important and fundamental part of what we're doing, is that when you put people together that have similar intention and purpose and guidance and vision, they want to create and bring something, we are able to move mountains, I mean, quite literally. So it's exciting to me to see the way that this has unfolded. And we started to sponsor the bioculture retreats about a year ago. And
that's a group of people that came together that are really passionate about health and wellness, right?
Yeah. So they're holistic health retreats, but they're also, the foundation of what they do is they work with content creators in the holistic health space. And they're showing part of what the guests get out of the retreat that's valuable for them is they're exposed to all these people that they've probably been following online for years, that have built their own communities, their own platforms, their own audiences that are now sustaining their lifestyle and letting them live more in their zone of genius and more purposeful. So that's really attractive to most people. And we're creating an intimate setting where, we have catered local organic food and, right by the beach and like an amazing villa, and it's like everything's super high vibe. But then you're also around people who share your values. They share a lot of the same concerns that we have for the world, and like are looking for ways to be solution oriented and to do what they can to make the world better than they left it. And you find yourselves in this container where now you can learn how people are using their authentic expression, their voice, to put themselves out there and create ripples that now are sustaining their lives, so that they don't have to work in some soul-sucking corporate job or sit under fluorescent lights for 9 hours out of the day. And that is shared value, I think, of a lot of the people that attend, is that they want to create sovereignty and live with purpose and be more in tune with their soul's journey instead of just like what society deems is right to do.
For sure.
So yeah, when we got involved with them, it was very aligned. As a brand sponsor, one of the agreements that the creators that are there makes is that they'll post content about the brand and collaborate with the brand. So we went down there as a brand sponsor at the beginning of this year and had a lot of fun. We were in Tulum for the first one. But coming home from that, I realized that what we want to do with Lajit is very much in alignment with what Bioculture has been doing down in Mexico. So partnering with them on launching a Lajit retreat series that we're going to probably have our first retreat this year in Sedona. And after Sedona, we might do the Big Island, Hawaii.
2026?
That would Hawaii would be 2026. I think Sedona is going to be this year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we're going to get the ball rolling on this ASAP. And the idea is to create all of these different just micro containers where we can bring in community, bring in tribe, people that are within our sphere, and create harmony, connection, and give people the personalized tools, coaching, and resources to actually accomplish like particular goals. One of the first retreats that we're going to do is going to be a business container, and we're going to invite a lot of our retailers to that, these independent shop owners, and we'll have coaches there and people on our team who really embody and exemplify living soul out and having integrity in everything that we do. I have all these different buckets that I want to fill up: my music, Lajit, my personal life, friendships, connection, health, wellness, my family, daughter, wife, all of it. Right. I have a kitty cat that I love, it's like all these different buckets. But the biggest breakthrough for me is when I realize I can be the same guy in all of these scenarios. And that's what real integrity is. Right?
Yeah, no masks.
no mask. I'm not switching it up. I'm not talking to my cat different than I'm talking to my kid, you know,
Right.
or my friend
or right now.
coworker right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm very human, superhuman, you know? And I don't mean that in like wear a cape kind of way.
Right.
I'm super, super fucking human.
Right.
You know, I cried into my coffee at Public Us this morning. I'm not even joking. Like just a moment of feeling emotionally overwhelmed. And I've learned to not identify with my thoughts and emotions and let them guide me and move them through me. And like, I have all these tools and sometimes I fucking use them. Sometimes I don't. But at the end of the day, I can sit here with you knowing that I'm a man of integrity. I don't got to put a mask on when I go home or when I go out at night or when I go out in the morning. I get to be the same guy in every setting. And being a part of these retreats, learning through being a father and a family man and leading my household and learning through leading this business, it's like helped to refine that and show that to me.
For sure. So. Yeah. And you are that, man. You're the same on our meetings as now, as when we hang out, as we go to the men's group. It's all the same Ben. And I really appreciate that, man. I really like to surround myself with people like that because that's what I strive to do. And I like to surround myself with people that are very authentic and really are living, following their truth and following their inner guidance, aligning with their highest ability to be of service for others and to help others. So I see that in you, and it's really an honor to be your friend and to have you on here, brother.
Yeah. Thanks, Peter. Likewise, man. Yeah, it feels really good, and keep doing what you're doing. I love this, and I love the value you bring to my life, man. Whether it's with Lajit or, you know, if we first met at the men's circle here in Vegas, which is a beautiful thing. I know that you've been involved in running that for a while. So, and it's another prayer answered for me, you know. Being out here is really lonely. Like I don't have the community still that I did in Sedona, that's for sure. And it's up to me to create it. You are very much a symbol of that and a reminder of that, which is, yeah, couldn't be more grateful, man. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. It's such an honor to have you on, and you're always welcome to come back on anytime to the podcast. So
yeah, let's do it again sometime. I'm going to be dropping some new music for the summer, so maybe we'll do a more music oriented podcast and play some songs and stuff. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. So until next time, man. Love you, brother. Thank you.
Love y'all.